If you are offering coaching services to clients, there will always be a first time when you make contact with them. This may be face-to-face, online, or over the phone. How this contact works will vary according to your preferred options. Some coaches may discuss a lot of initial information when the person makes their first inquiry. Others might simply book a meeting and discuss everything in their first proper meeting. This may depend upon you and your client. Some clients, for example, may want to know more about you and what you offer before they meet up with you. In this video, we're going to look at some of the basic information you require from your client to make sessions work effectively. We're going to look at the type of information you may need to discuss with your clients. But, as we said, this will vary according to how you arrange things. The first step is to find out who you're talking to and for them to know who you are. To work effectively with the client, we need to know simple things such as how to contact them. For this, we need to know their name, phone number, and email address. You may also request a postal address. It's a good idea to write down preferred times to contact a client. Some might not be available to take phone calls at certain times or on certain days. You also need to tell the client your name, the services you offer, and your experience in coaching. This can make them more comfortable about addressing you and more aware of what you can offer and what you might not be able to help with. This may be a very brief conversation at your first meeting, or it may be discussed before you arrange that first meeting. When meeting for the first time, it's important to be clear on the ground rules. These ground rules will vary depending on what is important to you, but consider: what notice do you need for cancellations? Does the person still have to pay if they don't cancel before the notice period? Where will meetings take place? What sort of negative behaviour will you not tolerate, such as rudeness, swearing, lack of punctuality, and so on? Confidentiality and data protection. Consider that. More on that later. What can the person expect from you? For example, what happens if you have to cancel? Now, where do you plan to meet? This could be in the coach's territory or the client's territory, or a neutral space. You might meet in your office or home, or perhaps in a neutral place like a park or a coffee shop. Another option is meeting online using video conferencing software or over the phone. Remote coaching, however, brings certain unique communication issues, which need to be understood by the coach. Some extra training in teleconferencing might be of value there. It is important the client realises that you will keep information confidential. Anything they pass on to you will be confidential. This is something that you should make very clear to the client right from the start. However, there are legal and ethical implications that can vary from place to place, which can impact on how you manage confidentiality. In many professions, keeping confidentiality is mandatory. If the person reveals something that relates to harming themselves or harming others though, then it may be mandatory for you to report this to appropriate authorities. A new client must understand and acknowledge such ground rules. Data protection refers to information we collect from our clients. This may be their contact details, more information about their issues, and information about their concerns and so on. Consider how data is stored, where it is stored, who has access to it, and how long it is stored for. Is data security robust? The client must be aware of these things before you start collecting data. Many coaches are working to be paid. It's important to be clear to clients on how this is arranged. Some coaches may require payment when they meet. Others may want payment in advance. As mentioned earlier, also consider what happens if a person misses a meeting. Will you still charge them? Will they need to give you so many days' notice before cancelling and then avoid paying? You need to decide what is appropriate for you and what the terms and conditions are. Also consider how you want to be paid. Cash, bank transfer, credit or debit card, or something else. After you've reviewed necessary general information, you should find out more about the client and why have they come to see you. There's no one way to do this. You might choose to ask the person to complete a questionnaire. You might ask them a set of predetermined questions. Or you might have a less formal conversation. Remember, at this stage, you're trying to get an accurate awareness of the person and their issue. The environment, state of mind, and mutual communication skills of both yourself and the client are all important here. Open questions are useful to encourage a person to open up and talk to you. You might ask something like, "So, it's nice to meet you today, James. Please tell me more about why you've come to see me." James then will hopefully start to open up and discuss things with you. Often one question might not be enough though. You don't want to interrogate your client. Be gentle in your questioning. Be empathetic. But hopefully, with open questions, you can draw them out and you can find out more about them and their problems. Using closed questions can make a person feel defensive and less responsive. They can feel interrogated by questions such as, "Do you have a problem at work? Is it a difficult problem? Is that why you've come to see me today?" Questions that can be answered with a simple yes or no can allow the client to avoid deeper conversations. Close questions, though, may sometimes be appropriate. After getting answers to our open questions, a follow-on closed question can help clarify details. As an example, in a workplace situation, you might say, "My understanding is the main issue is that your staff are putting in for too much overtime. Is that right?" The client can then give you a yes or no answer, and from that answer you know if you're on the right track or not. When talking to the client, we can make use of counselling skills such as summarising and reflecting back. Reflecting back simply refers to repeating back to someone what they've said, but in a slightly different way. For example, so the main problem is that you don't trust your employee to carry out these tasks when you're not there. This just clarifies your understanding. Summarising has a similar use. If a person's revealed a lot of information to you, you may then briefly summarise what they said. And again, ensure you both that you have the same understanding. You need to decide how long a session will be. You may simply say an hour per session, or you might charge a person for however long it takes. Again, determine what best suits you and your client. At the end of the first session, this is where you will arrange your next meeting and consider the way forward with the client. By arranging the next session, the client knows what actions are required before the next session and exactly when it is, so everyone is clear on what is happening.